There's that funky slide guitar music that comes on every Monday through Friday, live at 5 on the EvoP Network, Rumble, X, YouTube. Check us out, subscribe, type in IOUNewsWire on YouTube or Roy Blecker. You'll see my nice, smiling, shining face coming all across the airwaves. Lots of stuff to get done today. Of course, we'll join the Mighty Met KMT 1490 at the bottom of the hour, and plus we'll have Dr. Kelly Victory as we usually do on a Monday. Lots of stuff going on. Of course, the whole Minnesota fiasco up and down. Finally seems Walz and Trump are talking. We may have a deal going on there. Let's hope so. California in a cost of living crisis. Carl DeMaio writes a op-ed piece in the new California Post. Coming on, hopefully we'll get to that. Dr. Oz is joining up. He's head of Medicare, Medicaid for the Trump administration, is joining up with California U.S. Attorney Bill Saley, and they're looking into some of the Medicaid hospice fraud they say runs into the billions of dollars here and there. But lead story video shows a 19-month-old child fly out of a car in Orange County. Mother arrested. Just got a short video of this, and it's, you got to watch. You see the part up there, the inset. You can see the child. It flies out, I believe, on the driver's side somewhere across, and by the grace of God or whatever, so that white car stopped in time. We'll play it. Runs kind of fast. I didn't have time to run it down in slow motion, but you see it. Boom, there's the kid. Right there, somebody gets out and they stop. There you kind of see the image. It kind of gets blanked out for some reason in the camera, but you can see the kid right here appearing just before, just looks like a little bit past the fender on the passenger side on the white car, but we'll try to rock and roll it back up. You can see their back. You can see, boom. We'll try and slow it. You can barely see, and there it goes back. You can barely see right there. There's the kid already out, peers from the passenger side, rolling across the intersection, or the white car makes a dido. It's kind of hard to say with this as you see it stop. And there it is. You can see right there. See the image, but it's hard. That's a 19-month-old baby right there in front of the car. It appears. There you see it more. And I don't know why it was dark. Maybe the toddler I bet that's what it is. The boy or girl is standing up right there. So they were on the ground. They did have enough gumption to get back up, and you see that, but that is some horrific video. There you see the kid standing. You see the mom coming out of the passenger vehicle and picking up the child and putting her back in the car. She was subsequently arrested by Orange County police. Fortunately, that incident did not turn out any worse than it did. Finally, it appears some sanity is coming to the whole Minnesota situation. We'll get to that, but this broke today. This is a famous tweet, or one of his famous tweets, by Mr. Donald J. Trump, 47th President of the United States. In our headline, we put it up, Trump and Walz on the same wavelength. Governor Tim Walz called me with the request to work together in respect to Minnesota, which is very unusual because of all the tough talk from Jackoff Jacob Fry, the mayor of Minneapolis, Temp on Timmy the Retard Walz, the governor of Minnesota, and the whole rhetoric, get the F out and all this, and we're not cooperating and everything else. That's a humongous change to have Tampon Timmy calling Trump when he said he wasn't going to, no reason to, da 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 da. The request to work together with respect to Minnesota. It was a very good call, and we actually seemed to be on a similar wavelength. I told Governor Walz, see, Trump's being nice, that I would have Tom Homan call him and that we were looking for any and all criminals that they have in their possession. The governor very respectfully understood that, and we will be speaking with him in the near future. He was happy that Tom Homan was going to Minnesota, and so am I. We have such tremendous success in Washington, D.C., Memphis, Tennessee, New Orleans, Louisiana, and virtually every other place. We have touch. Crime is way down, but both Governor Walz and I want to make it better. President Donald J. Trump. So that's the first in the breakthrough with all the chaos that went through during the weekend. And we still don't know. We don't know all the parameters. Of course, there's supposed to be 4 or 5 body cams from the ICE agents will reveal a lot. There's the first shot that rings out, then a delay, and then boom, 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 5 to 10 shots just in succession. That's going to be very key to find out how the evidence works out. We pretty much know from the pictures that was a SIG 320. SIG 320 has a reputation for any little thing. If it falls out of your pocket, if you bump it, there's been lots of reported incidents, things just go off. And it's not a cheap gun. I mean, I think they start about $1,200, and I think with the sights and that, people have said the gun that Freddie had was probably would go close to, if not $2,000. So it's not a cheap gun to buy. It's not a Saturday night special that you get for $50 back in the day. It's a fairly expensive firearm, but it has had a lot of problems, or a lot of reported problems and lawsuits and things with it just going off while it's been in people's holsters. People have bumped them, people have dropped them, and the thing just lights off. Now, whether that happened when the ICE agent grabbed his gun, which it appears he grabs the gun from Pretty's holster in his back, that was in his back. Did it go off? Did he do it? Did he bump it? Maybe it hit the ground. Who knows? We'll find out. We need to have more evidence to that before we make the charge of murder and all this other noise that's been going on. And I will say, Kristi Noem rolling her mouth saying, oh, you know, he approached them branding a firearm. That doesn't appear to be the case. But there's some other particulars to that. But I'm glad Tom Homan is on the scene. I think that will do a lot to calm the waters, hopefully. We have, of course, some more. There's some more images of that in the tweet from President Trump and Tampon Timmy and him talking this over today. So hopefully we're on, and they are on, and President Trump, which I have no doubt of, they are on the same wavelength. And I've talked to every cop I have talked to, and I've talked to probably a couple dozen at this point, just in the last month. I said, you know, if ICE had a detainer, Riverside County, and we'll get to that in a minute, or whatever, if they had a detainer, and was in the Minnesota, Minneapolis jail, Riverside County, Los Angeles, Seattle, New York City, Chicago, wherever. You got a criminal, we got a warrant, we got a removal order, whatever it is. We want to pick them up. 90% of what you have seen would not be happening. And that's why it's not happening in Tallahassee, Florida, in Amarillo, Texas, in Liberal, Kansas, Sioux Falls, South Dakota, Billings, Montana. Truths are consequences, and there is such a place, New Mexico. Phelan, Nevada, or anywhere else like that. Because they cooperate. If ICE says, hey, you got Juan Valdez or whatever in your county jail, we have a deport order, warrant for his arrest, or whatever, some official action from the government says we want to take that person into custody. Here's the orders. They say fine. Juan Valdez is getting out at 2 o'clock on January 30th, 2026. Be here. They're there. They take them in the custody or in the jail or as they're walking out. And the public is not harmed. There's not ICE agents in your neighborhood knocking on doors. No, will there still be some pockets of it somewhere if they get a tip, say some dangerous criminal is X? Yeah, they're going to be there. So hopefully the rhetoric tones down. Here's Caroline Leavitt, press secretary for Donald J. Rolling it out, making the announcement at the press room. Hopefully, here we go.
This is a Washington Post headline from 9 years ago, 2016. Meet the man the White House has honored for deporting illegal immigrants. And I would remind everyone in this room that it was former President Barack Hussein Obama who awarded a medal to Mr. Homan. So he's obviously very qualified. He has the full trust and faith of the president. He will continue to have these meetings in the hopes that ICE and local law enforcement can cooperate and work together to have successful immigration enforcement, as we've seen in almost every other state across the country.
So Tom Homan's coming in, as Trump announced, as Caroline Leavitt did, to Minnesota. Probably the only official who has worked under Barack Hussein Obama. Tom Homan got that award for deporting illegal aliens, working as the border chief for Barack Hussein Obama. Here it is. Meet the man. This is in the WAPO, Washington Post. Meet the man the White House has honored for deporting illegal immigrants. That's 2015, June 27, 11 years ago, under Barack Hussein Obama. So we don't, when they say Tom Homan is the man for the job, 1,111%. I don't know if Jackoff Jacob Fry, the mayor, or Tampon Timmy the retard Walz. Okay, Homan's coming in. He worked under Hussein. You didn't have no problem when he was doing it under the Obama administration. What's the big deal? Or what's your concern about having Homan in? Let's get some cooperation going in Minnesota and where they're not. And then most of the stuff goes away. You will not see 98.7%, at least 90% of what you're seeing in these pocket areas of LA or Minneapolis or wherever if they would just cooperate with local law enforcement. And when they are making an operation and they call for local police to come out there and do the crowd control or whatever, that will defuse the situation much more, because they're going to have, if they had Minneapolis police on there, yada, 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 instead of ICE with all the rhetoric, it would be a lot calmer. At least the citizens are going to trust their own police department more than that. The other issue on the front burner is this whole you have the right to protest. Let's read the First Amendment to the Constitution and the Pacific Clause. Or the right of the people to peacefully assemble. Show me the word protest in the United States Constitution. You have a right to assemble. You have a right to hold your signs on the sidewalk. You do not have a right to block people's ingress and egress in public roads or getting into private homes or churches or parks, public, anything. You don't have the right to block the streets just out of the whim. Yeah, if you want to do a march down the street and you get a permit, okay. But that wasn't what the case was in Minnesota. Tell me where the protest was going on prior to ICE showing up. ICE shows up. Then the whole incident happens with the agitators. They were not protesting. They were, from everything I can tell, they were impeding law enforcement officers from doing their job. I want to know the jurisdiction where that is not a crime, illegal. You're not supposed to be doing that. You can be arrested, accosted, and in the case of impeding a law enforcement officer, you can be shot and killed, as we have seen a couple times in Minnesota. If this stuff wasn't going on, if Minnesota was cooperating with ICE, almost without a doubt, Renee Good, Andrew Priddy would be still alive today. We'll get to this and much, much more on today's show. Dig into some more of the particulars of what's going on. That wasn't a protest. They were there to impede law enforcement officers. Show me the signs they were holding. We got to be dealing with reality. And the sooner, the better. Hopefully Tampon Timmy and El Presidente and Tom Homan can get this thing straightened out so everybody can live in peace and harmony. 1,000%. More's going to come out that Flanagan, the lieutenant governor, has been implicated, or there seems to be some evidence. She's been running some of the social media networks, coordinating a lot of this. We're in the big evidence gathering stage of this. And again, I caution everybody from jumping to 9,000,000 conclusions. We haven't seen the body cam footage yet. In any of these things, the preliminary report, some of it is true, some of it is not, some of it is accurate, some of it is not. So let's deal with the reality of this situation. This had came out, I think, just before on the 22nd, on Thursday. John R. Lott wrote this great new piece in the California Post, as we see. Man, how Trump's ICE enforcement record blows Obama's out of the water by a lot. Mind you, that was the same. Tom Homan's running the same show, or the big head cheese, in both cases, but he has more success under Trump. Media's negative narrative, President Trump's effort to enforce immigration law, was in full display last week as a White House press briefing. Earlier, we were just defending ICE agents that were doing everything correctly. Now, Strange of the Hill challenged the press secretary, Caroline Leavitt. 32 people died in ICE custody last year. 170 citizens were detained by ICE, and Renee Good was shot in the head and killed, and we know the whole story. Caroline Leavitt shot back at her, but John Lott put some statistics to this, as is in the California Post, Dubay today. Countless news stories have amplified under the Trump federal immigration and customs enforcement agents were wildly violating basic rights, snatching people out of the street, beating the hell out of them, shooting them and dead, just massacring them in that. NPR, National Public Radio, which has finally been defunded, at least from the federal, to cite just one example, recently claimed that many American citizens have been mistaken for illegal immigrants, and that there's a long history of immigration agencies not having a good track record. But the numbers tell a very different story. Let's baseline between President's January 25th inauguration, the end of November. The Trump administration arrested extraordinary 595,000 illegal aliens and deported 605,000. ICE 170 ICE detained U.S. citizens cited in Strange Tribe included 130 arrests for interfering or assaulting officers, according to the left-leaning ProPublica, not part of the vast right-wing conspiracy. Justifiable under any reading of the law. Only about 40 or so of those were deemed claimed to be U.S. citizens accidentally or erroneously arrested by ICE, and just half of those people were held for less than a day, most released within a few hours. Any area is serious, but 40 out of 595,000 arrests amounts to an error rate of 0.0067%, roughly one wrongful detention in almost 15,000 arrests. Compared to the final 2 years of the Barack Obama administration, fiscal years 15 and 16, ICE recorded 263 mistaken arrests, 54 mistaken detentions, bookends, and 4 mistaken removals. That's under Barack Hussein Obama. During those 2 years, ICE made a mere 239,000 arrests, about 2.5 times less, meaning that the 54 mistaken detentions alone produced an Obama error rate of 0.0225, about one mistake in every 4,400 arrests. Not bad, but overall, the error rate under Obama was 3.36 times higher than under Trump. There is no data anywhere else. That's the only two we got to work with. So Tom Homan, being the head cheese on the border, head deporter for Barack Hussein Obama, as he gave him the award and the medal, and the WAPO acknowledged it, he's doing over 3 times better on the error rate, reducing it, than he did under the Obama administration. And again, if our government only made an error rate across the board at 0.00067%, you would hardly ever have a complaint or an error or anything done wrong. Everything would be running efficiently from DMVs to the SNAP program, to the vagrant everything. Healthcare would be, it'd be just, we'd have doctors and nurses just standing around doing nothing because, oh, we just want to keep them employed. Everything's running so efficiently. It's absolutely 1,000%. Lower death rate than went on the Obama administration. All the claims that have been made, 98.7% to their snatching people off the street. You know, they're just looking around. You know, if you're brown or black, those evil white cops are just going to shoot you. They're going to get out automatic weapons and just mow your ass down. From NPR to The Hill to the alphabet soup, Mockingbird, fool medias, the CNNs, the PMSNBCs, as Rush used to say. Attacks are up, way up, off the charts on ICE officers, law enforcement over the same period. Hopefully, with tampon Timmy the retard Walz calling Trump and saying, let's make a deal, let's cooperate. If we do this, we'll eliminate 98.7% of what the hell has been going on. This was our Mimi of the day. Democrats push for seizing guns for decades. Today, they claim it's fine to carry guns at violent protests. This is the hypocrisy, just like with Obama. Where were all the ones that are protesting today, the Trump administration, for doing it much more efficiently, with less violence, less error rate, less people arrested or detained? 3.36 times less than the Obama administration. Now all of a sudden the Second Amendment is a champion of the left. You can carry guns at a violent protest. Or you can impede law enforcement officers, because that's what they were doing. The people with the signs didn't show up till after Pretty lost his life. And then all of a sudden that and the riots and everything else, we're calling that out. Same thing with the Kyle Rittenhouse situation. You know, when the George Floyd riots and he defended himself with a firearm against a mass of rioters, oh, he had no business bringing a gun to a violent protest. Andrew Pretty, he's an American citizen. He has every right to bring a gun and protest, start a fight, impede federal agents. Well, what is it? From NPR to the protesters, to Hussein Obama, to Kamala, to Gavin, to Corey Jackson, Ulysses Cabrera, and everybody in between. It doesn't matter, because the facts do not matter. You just twist everything. Your guys can do it. If we oppose you, we are not. How does that not? The epitome of a tin-horn dictator, power-hungry, narcissistic, psychopath piece of S. You have to have that mentality to want to control people in that manner. This is what they were dealing with because of all the chaos that's been caused by that. ICE says violent mob to help criminal escape and left ICE agent permanently maimed. Bit off his finger the day before the Pretty incident. Nick Sorter posted this. Breaking. Suspect just fled from DSS agents in St. Paul. The vehicle crashed into a pole and then attempted to barricade himself inside a healthcare clinic. Why won't Tampon Timmy or Jackoff Jacob denounces? It's like the whole deal with the 5-year-old. Oh, he's in this. Oh, they took him from his parents' dad, and then the ICE agents were trying to take him back to his mother, and the mother wouldn't answer the door. What kind of mother abandons her kid? We're not doing it. But they were trying to make this, oh, the mean ICE agents, they kidnapped a 5-year-old, and he's over there crying, and he's staring at the fence, and oh, tugging at the emotional heartstrings. Now, Bavino, who was their head of ICE or Border Patrol, was there, and he reported, if that's correct, Pretty did not have an ID. If you are carrying, if you are carrying a concealed weapon and you have a concealed weapons permit, concealed carry weapons permit, if you are carrying, you are required to have a permit to carry and a valid driver's license or state ID with you. So while he was legally in Minnesota allowed to carry a concealed carry weapons permit, if Mr. Bavino is accurate, he was not allowed to carry it at that particular time when he was shot if he did not have an ID and his permit on him with him when he had the firearm concealed or open in his possession. So again, there's a lot we don't know, a lot of facts that will come out that will change what's going on. CNN had the post, this is this week. Average, deport all immigrants here illegally. Harry Enton, CNN, average. 55, New York Times. Marquette, 64. CBS News, ABC. If you average that out, that's got to be 57, 58%. 58, I believe. If I'm doing the math in my head correctly. 58% want to, not criminals, not those with arrest warrants, all immigrants here illegally. That's last week, folks. It's a poll of all last week's. And I guarantee you, not one of those pollsters there is part of the vast right-wing conspiracy. It's not Rasmussen or Paris or Trafalgar. So let's cut the rhetoric. Carl DeMaio, assemblyman from down there in San Diego way in California, how to end California's worsening cost of living crisis. Politicians must stop lying. California has by far the highest cost of living in any state, and it's getting worse every year. But instead of fixing the problem, state and local politicians are dodging responsibility of spiking costs of that. The Transparency Foundation recently released a study showing the cost of living in California for a typical middle-class family of three is a shocking $29,753.16 higher than the national average. Rounded off, that's $30,000. Study compared every line item in the household budget to determine how much more expensive that is. We put the piece out there. We did the math. If we were under the original GAN spending caps that were passed in 1979, before they were destroyed by teachers in 1998, preliminarily with 98, and then with the assist of John Garamendi of Prop 111 in 91. Each household would be getting an $11,000 tax refund this year. The cost comparisons show that Californians pay 127% more to own a home, 50% more to rent an apartment, 50% more for gas, 25% for more food, 48% more for water, 45% for taxes, 51% more for child care, 101%, over double for electricity, 20% more for our car insurance. Only way to fix this crisis, cost of living crisis, is for voters to conduct an intervention at the ballot box in 2026 at the midterm elections until politicians start losing their seats over the affordability issue. Nothing will get fixed. Carl DeMaio is exactly right. Now, Carl needs to get on board with this. We have LA County and San Fran and San Diego, basically the coast. Go up the 5, everything west. That 60% vote, Democrat. It doesn't matter. Could have Satan, the devil himself. Could have the serpent from Adam and Eve days. Wouldn't matter. They will vote for them. The only way I see that we have any sort of shot at electing a center-right, freedom and liberty type governor, Republican, not this stupid that has brought you what Carl DeMaio laid out, is we got to take the 40% of the Republican vote, split it evenly between Steve and Chad, 20%, and then hold all the 7 dwarfs. That's what there are. Steyer and Betty Lee and Thurman, Psycho Porter. Hold them below that 20% number. Top 2 go on to November. If it's Steve Hilton and Chad Bianco. And I'm not in the fight. Republicans, be smart. Quit trying to tear down Steve or Chad or whatever. This was pulled off by the Democrats in 2022. I'm going to pound it until people get it through their head. Democrats took a plus 20 Senate seat in 2020 and did this exact same thing. They split 20% basically even between the 2 Democratic candidates. I think there were 6 Republicans. They were less than that percentage. 2 Democrats moved on to November, and in District 4, Senate District 4, California, they elected in a 20-plus Republican, should have been ultra safe, Republican seat. They elected it by using strategy, by playing to win. We have got to play to win. I will take Steve Hilton or Chad Bianco every day of the weekend, 9 times on Sunday, over Psycho Porter, Spy Swalwell, the list goes on. That complete maroon Tony Thurmond, our superintendent of public instruction, which has run our education further into the ground when we didn't even think that was possible. They have no candidates of stature. They're on their knees begging Matt Mahan, the San Jose governor, to run. But they have no one there that isn't a totally flawed candidate on the rat side. And if you want to stop this, this is Donald J. It is actually possible that the total corrupt amount of money stolen over the years by corrupt politicians and fraudsters in Minnesota will exceed $100 billion. In any event, whether it is or isn't, the theft, incompetence, or fraud is massive. Sadly, whatever numbers we find, California and other Democratic-run states will be worse, and Trump is being kind. Minnesota's population's about a quarter of ours. Just right there, just off the numbers, is going to be 4 times larger. And I can tell you, they perfected this stuff in California. They test piloted it here before they sent it over to Tampa on Timmy Walz or Fat Boy Pritzker or Hokel Yokel or whomever. So, by and large, center-right, freedom and liberty types, get your ish together. Quit hammering Steve or Chad. We just need the only strategy. We like them both. We're going to split the vote even. We're going to work to hold those Democrats under that. We win this in June. It's been the Roy plan, the Roy strategy. I've been pounding this for a year. And we better, if you want to stop the impending disaster, you better get it together. Now's not the first. You have to win. You put one. Betty Yee wins by 15 plus points against Steve Hilton or Chad Bianco one-on-one. And it gets worse from that point. So, we got to consolidate on one candidate. That's a losing. You're going to lose. I don't care how great you think Chad is or Steve Hilton or whomever. You're going to lose. How many elections you got to lose before it sinks in your head?
All right, we're about a minute out, everyone.
You got it. So Sean said we'll be back. No, you got it. How many times you got to lose elections in California before you try something different? At least a strategy that's got a chance of working. I'm not saying that it's going to work, but it's the only one we got.
All right, 30 seconds. I'm going to put you on, Dr. Kelly, to hear everything coming in now.
So you got it. It's absolutely 1,000%. We've got to run a strategy. We've got the deck chairs to do it. Just we've got to get our act together and flat freaking do it.
Here we go, 10 seconds.
PatriotSwitch.com.
IE Newswire Daily is on the air.
The following is a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMET, its management, employees, or affiliates.
There's that funky slide guitar music that comes on every Monday through Friday live at 5:30 in the Mighty Met, 1490 AM, broadcasting all over the Inland Empire in the 4-inch AM van. Join your vast video audience in the Evil Pin Network, Rumble X, YouTube. Type in IOUTA, Roy Bleckert. You'll see my nice, smiling, shining face on that. Man, what a day. What a weekend. All the stuff going on. Bottom line, Tampon Timmy, the retard Walz, called President Trump. Said, hey, let's work this out. And that's all we've asked for. And if they do, if these sanctuary states and cities and whatever start cooperating with ICE, get the detainers in. Every cop I've talked to, 24 at least, has said 98.7% of what you see will be gone. You may see them once in a while if there's just somebody that got out or that. Most of it, you will not see ICE or Border Patrol in your community. Hopefully that gets worked out. Tom Homan's heading in there. Award was the deporter-in-chief for Barack Hussein Obama. Let's get it together. The cost of living, Carl DeMaio had a op-ed in the new California Post outlining how every household in California, $30K more cost you here. The strategy, we've got to employ the strategy. It's working out perfectly. We can elect a center-right governor, center-right freedom and liberty type governor in California in 26. Republican center-right people got to get their ish together and stop destroying the top two candidates, figure it out, split the vote, hold the others down, and in November, you were going to get a center-right governor, whether it be Chad Bianco or Steve Hilton. But, as we usually do on a Monday, we have, as I've determined her, the supreme physician in all the world, expert on COVID-19 and just about everything else, Dr. Kelly Victory. Welcome to iNewsWire with Roy.
Hey, Roy, always good to be with you, and I agree with you. We have entered full-blown crazy town. I cannot make heads or tails out of what these people in Minnesota are thinking, let alone the, quote, leadership, including Mayor Fry and the governor of that state. What the heck is going on?
It's something else. I mean, if we get this, is tragically two people had to lose their lives. But if it gets this stuff straightened out where this is not going to happen again, and we all start learning to live in a society that's going to work for everybody, then at least we're going to make progress moving forward, Dr. Kelly.
No, I agree with you. And look, here's the reality, Roy. I don't agree carte blanche with everything that law enforcement does. I think that there certainly are people in law enforcement who shouldn't be there, who don't try to de-escalate situations, who are power hungry, whatever it is. But here's Dr. Kelly's pro tip. If you are told by an officer of the law, I don't care if that's a federal agent, a local agent, if you are told to stop doing something, to halt, to get out of your vehicle, to put your hands up, whatever it is, I suggest you do it. You can fight out the other issues later. These people who are resisting arrest, who are making themselves a menace, who are screaming in people's faces, look, law enforcement officers, no matter how well trained, are still humans, and they have a breaking point too. And when you put somebody on edge, you make them so fearful of their lives that any wrong move can result in you getting nailed. It's just not wise. The people who have gotten hurt, I feel badly for them, but I would suggest to you they all deserved exactly what they got.
It goes back to then we ran the piece on it, the famous Chris Rock skit, how not to get your ass beat by the police, and it's pretty much basically what Kelly Victory said. If you're respectful of them, you obey their commands. You're not going to get your ass beat. You're not going to get shot. I mean, the whole thing, and we got to get back down to that point. those that showed up, Pretty and the crew, they were there to impede law enforcement. They were not protesters. Those guys showed up afterwards, and however that happened, that's whatever. We'll figure that out. They were not peacefully protesting. They were there. And as far as I know, in every jurisdiction in the United States, it is a crime to impede a law enforcement officer for doing their job, Dr. Kelly.
Absolutely, and that's the reality. Is that you can sort of figure out whether or not something was lawful down the road. But if you are in a position where you are coming face to face with law enforcement and they are telling you to stand down, I suggest you do it. That said, these people in Minneapolis have absolutely lost it. I don't know what most of them think they're fighting for. They are here. You have got ICE officers. They're trying to arrest and locate and arrest pedophiles, sex offenders, people who have been convicted of armed robbery, assault, and these people in Minnesota are trying to protect those individuals. To what end? What state is it? Do you think that those individuals will therefore not attack you, your daughter, your husband, that they won't rob you, carjack you, rape you? Because, didn't I see you down at the protest against the ICE officers? Okay, all right, I won't rape you or your daughter. No. They're going to be just as much at risk as everybody else. It makes no sense.
1,000%. Shifting gears a little bit, I didn't know this was coming, but Dr. Oz, which in Trump administration was in charge of Medicare or something or other, and Bill Asaley were out here, our U.S. attorney out here in California. They're teaming up to get the fraud out of the medical part, hospice and everything. Here's a short clip that was released. Let's get a little listen to this before we get Dr. Kelly's comments. Here we go.
Angeles, U.S. Attorney's Office, we're talking about fraud. This place has become one of the epicenters for fraud, waste, and abuse in America. $3.5 billion just here in Los Angeles County, we think, around hospice and home health care. Then you add in all the other things like they have in Minnesota, but in California scale, it's huge.
And what we have witnessed is a 7-fold increase in hospice in LA County. 7-fold.
This is getting ridiculous. I mean, I think what's been touched off on the fraud, I think the Somali thing, we may look at as this is a big turning point in that. And as the Trump administration coming in and looking all this stuff, I mean, I wish they would crank up the arrests and everything and prosecutions going, but I see positive signs with this, Dr. Kelly.
I agree. I think they will ultimately, Roy, get to the bottom of it, or at least expose a lot of it. But the reality is this has been going on for years. This is a systematic problem, not just probably in Minnesota. Certainly appears to be going on in Ohio and other states. And the exact magnitude of the problem is as yet unknown. But the reality is this fraud, this abuse, this raping of the U.S. taxpayer has been going on in multiple states for decades at the hands of these uber progressive politicians like Tim Walz. And he should be held just as accountable for this as the Somalis who did it, because he turned a blind eye. He allowed it to happen. And I think if they actually look hard enough, and it wouldn't be that hard, they will find that people like Ilhan Omar have been on the receiving end. They have been getting kickbacks from these Somalis who have been living large off of U.S. taxpayers.
1,000%. I mean, the fraud that's been going on, I mean, like I said, like Trump put out in his tweet of that, no matter what you think of going on, what might or might not be, he said it may be $100 billion just in Minnesota. He says that is going to pale in comparison to what's been going on in California, New York, Illinois, and all that. Seattle, Washington, and in those places, I guarantee you, if they stay with it, you're going to think Tampon Timmy, the retard, Walz, and the crew over there, they're going to look like pikers compared to what's coming, what we hopefully will see and flesh out, Dr. Kelly.
I agree with you, and that's what I'm saying. This has been going on in multiple states for multiple years, and we're talking about billions with a B of dollars. Do you know, the average we talk about, we fight about every year whether or not there's going to be a tax hike or a tax refund and how much people will get back. If we simply got rid of this type of tax fraud, the amount of money that would go back to U.S. taxpayers, the amount of money that would be back in the coffers, the amount of money that would be for all kinds of things, whether it's fixing the roads, fixing the schools, school lunch programs, all kinds of things. Billions of dollars have been stolen by these people. And every American should be angry, furious about this, that your hard-earned dollars have been going to people who have no business even being in this country, let alone living off of your taxpayer dollars.
1,000%. It's been absolutely. I mean, and I follow this stuff probably about as closely as anyone. And it's even, I didn't even believe it was this deep and this entrenched, and we'd been getting fleeced. And I'm trying to put it nicely with the FLYS word, over decades. And how long, who knows how long this has been going on, but maybe for slightly. We went over the California thing in that. We've got to, as a people, come up and say, enough is enough of this. We can't, because if we keep on the same trajectory, if we keep on this trajectory, I don't know if it's next year or 5 years from now or 10, you will crash the United States so bad, you will think you will want to move to Venezuela or Cuba, because it will be a disaster across the world if we crash the United States economy and standard of living. I mean, everybody will go down, Dr. Kelly.
No, I agree with that. And I think that, frankly, Trump getting reelected in this term was the thing that saved us from going down the route of Venezuela, because we were at that tipping point. Now we are starting to understand just how bad things had gotten. Were it not for Trump being in office, none of this that was just exposed in Minnesota, in Ohio, in California, in terms of the fraud, would ever have been exposed. We would have gone years more, and it would have gotten exponentially worse. So the only thing that's really saving us is, number one, having closed the damn border, starting to deport and identify and arrest these criminals who are here illegally in the first place, but also have been convicted of crimes, violent crimes in the most cases, and then exposing this level of fraud that's occurring. Americans have been played like fools. And frankly, conservatives have played into it, because we all, they always make the mistakes, the Republicans always make the mistake. They think, oh, if they're just nice to people and they just get along, everyone will like us. No, that's not the case. We've got to enforce the law. We have to be absolutely unforgiving in our attempts to arrest people, imprison them, deport them, expose the fraud, hold people accountable.
1,000%. And this whole thing has been coming out. And you mentioned the illegal immigration part. And in the last year, biggest crime rate drop, lowest murder rate since 1900, 126 years ago, in 1 year. And what happened? We deported illegal alien criminals up the kazoo. And of that's where the target is. The 2 million that self-deported probably weren't criminals, but of the 500,000 or 600,000 they did deport, were doing that. And you know what? The crime rate, the murder rate is dropping. It's dropping in San Bernardino, California, which has been the murder capital here in SoCal for decades. I mean, it's dropping everywhere. And why? What has changed? I mean, nobody's put the numbers to it to yet, but I would almost bet everyone's farm that it's going to be a large part of it is the deportations that went through of criminal illegal aliens in 2025, Dr. Kelly.
No, I agree, and I think that if there's one thing that Trump did that you cannot deny has saved this country, it's dealing with the illegal immigration issue. And by the way, he still has not deported anywhere near as many people as Obama deported, and no one was having a fit, hissy fit over that. But he's done a tremendous amount to closing the borders. We've had less illegal immigration ever in this country that we had in decades, and that's gone a long ways. But we've got to have some accountability, Roy. What happened, what has happened, and it continues to happen in places like Minneapolis, Minnesota, with regard to this fraud and the absolute raping, as I said, of American taxpayers. If there isn't accountability, if people don't go to prison, then it'll never change.
1,000%. Speaking of prison, and not that I'm surprised about it, but the whole Redfield announcement basically stamping what you and a lot of us have said. The whole COVID con, the vaccine was absolutely unnecessary for most of the people that took it. The masking, the social distancing, it was all stupid. It shouldn't have been done. But that, again, we need to have, people have been, Fauci should have been the first one, Collins and all those clowns, they should have been the first ones doing the perp walks in January of 2025, and they're still screwing around with it. Get on the stick of this. The fraud or this stuff in Minnesota is, we want to see, I think, if Trump and the DOJ and all that would get on, if he's got to fire Bondi or whatever he's got to do, if they get on the stick and really get aggressive with this stuff, like prosecuting Fauci, these fraudsters and everything else, I think we could actually increase the midterms. We could actually start turning the elections around in California and elsewhere that have been totally off the charts of that. And you'll prevent more mandamis and stuff for basically taking over our big cities, which could be a humongous problem if we don't stop it, Dr. Kelly.
Yeah, so let's go back for a second to this issue of, Robert Redfield, the former CDC director. I have absolutely zero tolerance for this man. He's out there on the speaking tour, sitting on the dais, wearing a suit with his microphone, talking about how, it actually wasn't a vaccine, it's a genetic therapy, didn't actually stop transmission, we shouldn't have done the lockdowns, masks didn't work, we really harmed children. You know what? Shut up. Where the heck were you 5 years ago when I and Peter McCullough and Pierre Corey and Harvey Reich and a handful of others were out there taking it on the chin saying this? Because here's the reality, Roy. Nothing changed. The science didn't change. Robert Redfield knew that just like I knew it 5 years ago. The difference is I had courage. I had integrity. I had guts, and I put it on the line. I risked my career, my reputation, personally and professionally. And Robert Redfield and anyone else who gets out there today and has the guts to say what they're saying without saying that they were wrong, that they take their hats off to people like me, like Peter McCullough and the others I just mentioned, and say, we were wrong. We were either scared, we were afraid to lose our jobs, we didn't want to face the backlash, from the medical society or from the media or whatever it was. But how dare you act as if you were out there and, always knew this and you were on the right side of history, because you weren't. And this stuff is codified. We have the receipts. We know what a little weasel he was. And those people, Robert Redfield is right up there with Anthony Fauci and Rochelle Walensky and Deborah Birx, and they need to be held accountable.
Got a couple minutes left. Anything else our audience should know? Go.
I'll tell you, one thing that is really alarming me, Roy, is the number of posts I am seeing from so-called medical professionals, primarily, terrifyingly, nurses, nurse anesthetists, and people in healthcare who are posting vile things on social media. One woman who's apparently a labor and delivery nurse, or was until hopefully she lost her license within the last 24 hours, posted a vile video hoping that Caroline Levitt had a traumatic and tragic and life-threatening injury during childbirth. We have other people who are saying that they would openly harm people who they knew were MAGA or Republicans or had voted for Trump if they came in to seek medical care. People saying that they would refuse to give them anesthesia, that they would poison them, and on and on. This is a really, really unhinged, terrifying thing that's happening. If you see these things, you need to report it. You need to bubble it up to the highest level at that particular hospital, but also to the Attorney General of the state in which that person is licensed. That person should not only lose a job, they should lose their license to practice in whatever healthcare capacity they do, nursing, medicine, whatever it is. Those people cannot be allowed to interface with patients.
Thanks for being on, Dr. Kelly. We'll do this again soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, Roy.
Dr. Kelly Victory saying it, as we say, only as she can, of that, man, that all the stuff that's going on. And again, I want to give Trump a little bit of latitude here to fix this whole thing with tampon Timmy Walz. If it doesn't, Trump will be back on, get after it. But we need to take, sometimes, the old cliche, we need to take the temperature down a little bit. And not that you don't keep the pressure on, and I get that part too, but we need to take a pause. If Timmy and Jacob are over there saying, hey, we're going to cooperate with ICE, okay, that could be a start. Maybe that will start cracking the doors, mowing down the dike in California, New York, and other places where it's just a few spots this stuff is happening. It's like we said, most of the country is not experiencing this. It's where, and like I said, I've talked to over at least a couple dozen cops. Everyone I've asked them, they said if they were cooperating with ICE, if the local law enforcement was cooperating with ICE, would you see most of this, none of it, and I mean even if I use 90% of this stuff would be gone. You wouldn't see it. And to a man or a woman, they have said absolutely 111%. So hopefully we'll, as we say, get our ish together. And, man, if we don't, it's, as we say, it's our own dang fault. We'll run through some of the weekend's local stories, as we say. Nightmare next door. IOUTA man arrested for breaking into a girl's bedroom. Patrick Alexander was found hiding in the backyard when the cops showed up. $100,000 bail as he targeting more girls. Her dad saved her or whatever, scared off the intruder when he heard what was going on. So it was a disturbing situation that was going on in IOUTA. We will keep you updated. Cops, Harupa Valley cops, right on, using off-highway vehicles and stuff to clean out the vagrants in the Santa Ana River. Let's get to a frickin' policy where we're not even having, like with the other issues, we need to start dealing honestly, sometimes toughly, of getting the vagrants out. Cleaning up that problem. We're going to have some stuff on 36. Ashley Zavala had a report. I'll get to it. But bottom line is we're going to have to put more jail capacity in to clean up our communities. The rehab thing is only working in about 15% of the cases. So all of this, they're going to get treatment, all that. 15%. The other 85% need to be in a jail. Emmett man arrested for murder in a 2-year-old case from Lake Elsinore. Samuel Salazar was arrested after that for the murder of a 18-year-old in Lake Elsinore. So good job on the cops on that. San Bernardino pursuit led to a deadly shooting in a Riverside shopping center parking lot. Fugitives shot dead by the deputies there in a dramatic showdown that came down in River City. Man, what a weekend with all the stuff going on nationwide and in our own inland empire. We'll cover it all as we usually do. Like nobody's business, like nobody else does. I can't defy you to find someone who covers the local news like we do here on IU Newswire. In our unique and inimitable way of that. Something else. That'll do it for today. As we usually say at this time, mandatory you're back here in 23 hours wide. The best darn show in the whole wide world. Until then, see ya.
The preceding was a paid program.
All right, Roy, all clear.
You got it.
Yeah, it's crazy the shit that's happening, man. I swear to God, dude.
It's something else. We're in some interesting times, no doubt about it.
Yeah, that's an understatement. All right, Roy, I'll talk to you later.
You got it.
Bye.